Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Crypto Hipsters podcast, where I interview founders and co founders, entrepreneurs and artists, executives and stay at home hipsters in crypto and blockchain around the world. And I have an amazing podcast for you today. Let's get to it. Today I'm going to tackle a new area. Um, I'm going to tackle real estate. So we're going to find out what happens. My guest, she is the chief economist and Florida and New York real estate sales agent with Nest Seekers International. Her name is Erin Sykes. Erin, welcome to the show today.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. And I'm going to tell my guests how this is going to tie into crypto, and it will. But we'll start out with the first question: is what is your background, and is it a logical background for what you do now?
Sure. So my background combines marketing and construction, and those are the industries that I was involved in for the first 15 years of my career before transitioning to real estate. So it's, pretty clear tangent to real estate. I loved construction, and I was in commercial until I started with Nest Seekers, which is when I transitioned into residential. But the marketing background has become so key in order to grow your business, particularly expanding, to multiple different regions, which is what we're doing right now. We just opened offices in Vail and Aspen and Breckenridge and Mexico City all within last month. So the marketing becomes a key component in doing that. But yeah, it's a pretty, concise line to where I'm going now, although it wasn't always real estate.
Great. So Nest Seekers, what do you guys do? You have a dual role. You're an economist and a sales person, right? So what do you do, and what are you great at, and what's your unique insight that kind of combining those two things? I don't hear that a lot.
Sure. So I'm based between Florida, New York City, and I spend the summer in the Hamptons. So the multiple geographies help me a lot with these different roles. So my sales roles are within Florida and New York State, and the economist role is really global and on a more corporate basis. So anytime we have breaking news or just regular monthly data reports that I create and distribute to different media organizations. I tend to be the voice for the company regarding where I think the industry is heading. And then I'm able to also take that information and then involve it in my day-to-day sales. Primarily I sell in Palm Beach and Miami. And in the Hamptons. So kind of having the insight from a global macro level is super helpful in those microcosms as well.
So I want to talk about that. Global real estate, international real estate, what are the current trends, and how is the U.S. measuring up in those trends?
So the United States is where the world is coming to invest, and that is no secret. Whereas previously we would see Miami and New York City be really hotbeds for international investment. Now we're seeing it spread out to second-tier cities as well, and I see that a lot in Palm Beach, where we're pretty small. It's a isolated island, but we've been discovered on the world map. So it creates a different dynamic when you're working with international investors than people who are necessarily from the area, the geography that you're working. So it becomes very, very much an opportunity for financial gain and to get in on the ground level of a high trajectory for the future. And that's why many people are coming here, because Florida is strength is here to stay, and we really don't see prices falling anytime soon, and that's driven because of how the state has managed the shutdowns, or the lack of shutdowns, how business friendly we've been. And, the international community recognizes that, not just in New York and New Jersey, people who have been moving down in previous years, but it's really become globally business friendly in Florida, which is driving the current momentum. That said, we also have a lot of investment opportunities outside the U.S., and that's why we opened our office in Portugal. And, with a $750,000 investment in Portugal, you can earn a second visa, which is very unique. There are other countries within the EU that do it. However, the barrier to entry for Portugal is much lower than most. And for those people who are from, frankly, unstable nations, where they're concerned about the status of their, passport in future years, and that general instability, it gives them an opportunity to become a resident of Portugal with a modest investment as well. So that's why we opened there. And then, of course, Mexico, we see a lot of movement between Mexico and Miami. So we wanted to capture that, not just on moves into Miami, but also moves from Miami to Mexico and within Mexico. It's really all about following the customer, follow the money.
So I'd say 40%, around 40% of my audience is in Ireland. So for those looking for a crypto-friendly jurisdiction, outside of Ireland, Portugal would be an option, you're saying?
Yeah, Portugal is crypto-friendly. I actually have a listing there, or 5 listings. It's a beautiful new development in Lisbon, and they accept cryptocurrency. The other, in terms of the United States, the most crypto-friendly city right now is Miami, and even the mayor is taking part of his salary in Bitcoin. I work with the Waldorf Astoria residences, which is new development in Miami, and also with 11 residences. And both of those are by PMG developers, and they are accepting crypto for purchases pre-construction, which is something new. We've seen, major transactions happen post-construction in the resale market at the Art Day Surf side, and about $23 million in crypto transaction that happened last year, but never before has a developer accepted on a large-scale new construction project, cryptocurrency. So Lisbon is definitely a hotbed. Our listings in Mexico with Luxemia, which is a big developer down there, and they're my favorite developer globally, actually, because they have such a theme around all of their towers and homes. So at the Shark Mansions and Shark Tower, which is in Puerto Cancun, they're accepting cryptocurrency as well. And the beauty of those developments is that they donate a portion of the sales to shark preservation. Also, just the amenities and the design really bring in the ocean and bring in sharks themselves. So it's the tower is a giant shark fin, and it's stunning, right above a marina. And then the mansions themselves, which are 6 homes right adjacent to the tower, they allow for underground parking. Each one has a 6-car parking garage, and it's underwater, where you have sharks swimming around you when you get in and out of your car, and then you go up, it's 4 stories above. So all of these places are options for purchasing in cryptocurrency.
I want to go there. I want to go there.
It is so cool.
I'm in Connecticut. I want to flee. And that leads me to my next question. Now, what is going to, it's this: why are people fleeing New York City and Connecticut for Florida? And what other migrations are you seeing right now, and why?
So, people are fleeing New York City, even Connecticut and New Jersey, for Florida for the obvious reasons. We are right now more business friendly, and we have tax advantage. However, really, what I think is below all of that momentum is safety. And every time there is a riot, every time there's a random act of violence in Manhattan, my phone starts ringing. And it's people who are simply fed up, and they just, it's the straw that broke the camel's back. And they say, if one more thing happens in this city that really frightens me, I'm out. And that's what's continuing to happen. And that said, we've seen a lot of strong momentum of purchasers in Manhattan. Now, most of those purchasers have been international. So it's international citizens purchasing properties in Manhattan because they feel that the value there is stable and it's a good place to park some money for the time being. So it's not going to crash anytime soon. However, in terms of where people are spending more of their time, that's when they're coming to Florida. Maybe they're keeping a pied-à-terre in the city, or just not going back and forth to their apartment quite as often as they used to. And you can count me in that group, where I used to go back and do 2 weeks here and 2 weeks in New York, and now it's become 3 to 5 days a month in New York City and the rest of the time in Florida, simply because my life is higher functioning here, and my business is much stronger.
You said an important word that I got to ask about, because it requires subtlety, and I'm not great at subtlety. But the word riots, you have that not just in New York, but you have that all around. And what impact, or how do we deal with that, effectively, so that it's not an issue going forward and people are free to migrate around?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to find a solution, because it's not a healthy thing, clearly, for cities, from a safety perspective, from a financial perspective. Nobody wants to be near a riot. Nobody wants to have this in their community. So I think that there is, there's a lot of healing that needs to happen, and people need to really start to come together, because it's been divisive in the last couple of years, and it's really not helping anyone.
I agree. So, community and healing, I want to talk about that in a bit, but I want to backtrack 1 second first and talk about the blockchain, right? Over the years, the role of the blockchain has changed and altered in real estate and real estate development. What did it start out as, and how has it grown, and what is it today?
Sure. So the blockchain is, the backbone of cryptocurrency, as you're well aware. And the way I see it integrating most synergistically into real estate is simply by creating a housing structure for all parts of a transaction and of a property. So right now, it's pretty common that we get midway through a transaction and, there's a surprise of some sort. If that's a surprise in title, if that's, an encroachment, if that is the need for a last minute survey, whatever it is. Now, my ideal scenario would be having all of those elements attached to a property live in a single place, which would be the blockchain. So I think that is, the short-term goal for using blockchain. In addition, I think, international transactions via blockchain and crypto are far simplified compared to conversion of one currency into another. So that's, something that we can really look forward to. And of course, the speed at which these transactions can occur would be far improved from where they are at present.
Payments, records, transaction speed. How about the role of NFTs?
Yeah, and I mean, with the blockchain, using those transactions or housing and storing those transactions all related to property, I see that happening in the form of an NFT. So, title can take the form of an NFT, and maybe this will cut out some of the middlemen, in transactions going forward. So it's something, to consider regarding job security about, can you be replaced? And I think it's super forward thinking of people to learn how to work within the blockchain structure so that their jobs are not eliminated by it.
You're the first person I spoke to all year who said that. So, um, yeah, I mean, I built middleware, I built systems, I built structures, and I buy things that make me obsolete. You know, um,
Mm-hmm.
so um, you know, you said community and healing, and we have a brand new thing happening right now. It's not brand new, but it's new. It's called the metaverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why are people buying virtual land?
So I think the easiest way to explain the metaverse and property sales in the metaverse is that it's more of a storefront. It's more of advertising. And I was really not super gung ho over the metaverse until I really experienced it using, the Oculus goggles. I was down at the 11 residences in Miami, and they showed me a use for the metaverse that I had never experienced before. And, basically this is a pre-construction opportunity. It won't be move-in ready for another 4 years. It's 2 towers, 300 units. And it's 80% sold out pre-construction because you're able to put on the Oculus and you're able to go into, studio, one bedroom, all the way up to penthouse apartments, all of the common areas, experience a party at the pool outside where all of your senses are completely immersed. You've got music going on, you've got avatars, enjoying themselves on the pool deck. When you walk by the fireplace in the common area, your brain actually starts to smell like burning wood. It's amazing how enveloped all of your senses get when you put on these, metaverse goggles. So, in the opportunity to sell pre-construction wherever you are, literally internationally, or even, resale, things that have already been built using the metaverse and 3D and AR and VR technology, I think it's really going to change the industry. That said, I think that there's also, we need to maybe think of things as apples and oranges because so many people keep trying to translate metaverse property into the same thing as real property in real life. It's more about storage space and visibility and advertising in the metaverse than it is, a physical plot of land.
What yeah, that's a good point. I want to ask about that. So what's the distinction? What should people be looking out for? Because that makes a lot of sense to me.
I think that, as realtors, we need to adapt, adapt or die, because this is where the world's going. So it's necessary to embrace it and learn about it. And maybe you're not selling property in the metaverse. However, you need to have a general understanding of where things are moving and be able to explain it to consumers. So I think that there's just a lot of ramping up and continuing education that needs to happen on the part of realtors, and those who do so will, continue to thrive in the future, and those who don't might see their careers falter in the future.
Interesting. So, there are two schools of thought of metaverses, right? So there's the Facebook Meta, right? Which means, and part of what you're talking about is advertising space, that. And then there's the community, the metaverse crypto communities believe the metaverse should be decentralized, and it's all about community. And you mentioned healing. How can the metaverse be used to heal communities and bring them together and build up the value of not only metaverse real estate, but actual real estate?
That's a phenomenal question and a beautiful adaptation of the metaverse, that I think we should really research and embrace, because I have not really thought of using it in that way before, but I think that, that's a really on point, timely opportunity for the use of new technology.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. It just that was just it came to my head, like, okay, you got a difference. And one last thing I asked about the metaverse is this: the Oculus you mentioned. Are we going to be able to use this technology to replace the open house? I know you do commercial, but from a residential perspective, are we going to be able to use the metaverse to not have open houses anymore? Just do it from your living room.
Yeah, so actually I'm primarily in residential now. I was in commercial when I was on the construction side, but in terms of sales, I'm mostly do residential, and absolutely. I think that, I do not believe that we can replace all human interaction with the metaverse. I am not one of those people that says, oh, one day we're going to sit inside our houses and never come out again, and we don't need human relationships. Absolutely not. I think it's a great addition to, our lives, and especially to be able to sell homes to remote buyers. I think it saves a lot of time, money, and travel, and just gives an opportunity to reach a whole new audience, frankly, a younger audience.
Yep. The younger audience, they look at real estate differently, and the older students too. So I'm right in the middle. So interesting. So I want to thank you very much for your time today. This has been a great conversation. And if I ever want to look down in Florida to buy a house down there someday, I'll ask you to help. My last question is this: how can people find out more information about you, about what your company does, about what you do? How can they contact you if they want to buy? How can they do that?
Thanks. So easy enough. You just put my name, Erin Sykes, and my company name, Nest Seekers, into Google, and the top result will populate, and all of my contact information is on there. My social handle on all platforms is Sykes Style. So I'm pretty easy to get a hold of, and Nest Seekers is an amazing company, and we're doing great things. So I hope everybody gets a chance to check it out.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
All right. Thank you.